Over the next few minutes, we're going to dive into an ancient philosophy, and it's designed for pretty much one thing: building a bulletproof mind.
Just think about it for a second. You're stuck in traffic, you're late for a meeting that could literally make or break your career. The project you've poured months of your life into, it just went down in flames, publicly. Your phone buzzes, and it's even more bad news. For most of us, that's it, meltdown city. But then, you have those people, the ones who seem to just glide through the exact same chaos with this unshakable calm. So, what's their secret? I'll tell you what it's not. It's not some talent they were born with. It's a technique. It's an ancient operating system for the human mind, and it's called Stoicism. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how you can become emotionally bulletproof.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off by figuring out what it really means to be emotionally bulletproof. Then, we're going to jump back in time to see where this philosophy was born, and it was brutal. From there, we'll get our hands on its ultimate weapon, the circle of control, and see how this ancient idea is actually behind a lot of modern therapy. Then, we'll dig into its spiritual side, before I leave you with a powerful exercise to build your own mental fortress.
So let's be perfectly clear about one thing. This kind of emotional resilience, it is not a personality trait, it's a skill. And, like any skill, it can be learned, it can be practiced, and it can be mastered. And that right there is the core promise of what we're about to explore.
It's called Stoicism. And yeah, it was founded over 2,000 years ago, but this is not about a bunch of abstract debates. It's a practical, real-world guide to achieving what the Stoics called ataraxia, which is just a fancy word for a state of profound inner peace, no matter what craziness the world throws at you. The whole thing is built on one simple idea. We can't control what happens to us, but we can always control how we respond.
Now, it is so important to understand where this philosophy came from. Okay, this is not some system dreamed up by guys in a comfy library or some quiet, relaxing cafe. This philosophy was forged in the most extreme conditions you can imagine. It was born from war, from plague, from exile, and from slavery.
I mean, just look at these two guys. First, you've got Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, the literal ruler of the known world. But his entire reign was one crisis after another. Non-stop war on the borders, a plague that killed millions, and the personal tragedy of losing so many of his children. His famous book, Meditations, wasn't for us, it was his private journal, his way of coaching himself through unbelievable stress. Then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have Epictetus. He was born a slave. His master, in a fit of rage, deliberately broke his leg. He lived a life with zero physical power, and yet he became one of the most important Stoic teachers, arguing that real freedom has nothing to do with your body. It's all about the total control you have over your own mind.
So here's the bottom line. If Stoicism worked for an emperor watching his world crumble, and for a slave who didn't even own his own body, then you better believe it's designed to work for us when we're staring down a tough deadline or dealing with a nasty comment online. This thing is a battle-tested survival tool.
And now we get to it, the central technique, the absolute heart of all Stoic practice. Seriously, if you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, please make it this. This is the ultimate weapon for your mind. It's called the dichotomy of control, and the idea is actually super simple, but it is life-changing. In any given situation, you have to ruthlessly, just ruthlessly, separate what you can control from what you can't. The Stoics argue that basically all of our misery, our stress, our anxiety, our anger, it all comes from one single mistake. We waste all our energy trying to control things that are outside of our power, while we totally neglect the one and only thing we have absolute control over, our own mind.
Look at this. It lays it all out so clearly. On the left, in your control, your judgments, your effort, your moral compass, and how you choose to respond. That's it. That's the entire list. Now, on the right side, outside your control, pretty much everything else. What people think of you, whether you actually get the job, your health, your money, the weather, the past, the future. Even things you can influence, like your health, aren't under your total control. You can eat right, you can exercise, but you could still get sick. The genius of the Stoics was to say, pour 100% of your energy into that first column and practice a calm, disciplined acceptance of the second.
And this analogy just nails it. Think about a master archer. She focuses only on what she can control. Her stance, her breathing, her aim, that perfectly clean release of the string. She does her part flawlessly. But the second that arrow leaves the bow, her job is done. A sudden gust of wind, the target moves a little, all of that is totally outside her control. A wise archer judges her success on the quality of her shot, not on whether it hits the bullseye. She focuses on her effort, not the outcome. That is exactly how a Stoic approaches life.
Okay, so you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but is it just, some old philosophy? Well, it turns out that this ancient wisdom is the direct ancestor of one of the most effective, science-backed forms of modern therapy we have today.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is a powerhouse in modern mental health. And guess what? Its founders openly admitted they were basically just adapting Stoic principles for the modern world. I mean, look at the parallels here. Both Stoicism and CBT are built on the exact same foundation. It's not the events in our lives that cause us to suffer, it's our judgments and our beliefs about those events.
This quote right here from Epictetus, the former slave, this could be the tagline for every single CBT clinic on the planet. He said this almost 2,000 years ago. The event itself is neutral. A traffic jam is just cars on a road. A critical email is just pixels on a screen. The suffering? That's what we add with our own interpretation. The Stoics knew it then, and modern psychology has proved it now.
So how do we actually do this in the heat of the moment? Let's walk through it. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. The automatic gut reaction is that hot flash of anger, right? But a Stoic would do this instead. First, stop. Just pause. Create a little space and interrupt that knee-jerk emotional reaction. Second, think and assess. Separate the objective fact, a car just moved into my lane, from your subjective story. That jerk disrespected me. He thinks his time is more important than mine. And finally, respond. Based on this new, clear assessment, what's the best thing to do? Getting angry changes absolutely nothing. The only rational response is to let it go and focus on your own driving. You interrupt the autopilot and choose a conscious response.
All right, so we've got the intellectual tools, but now we're going to go deeper to the emotional and really the spiritual core of Stoicism. This is where it transforms from just a coping mechanism into a whole new way of experiencing life itself. The concept is called amor fati. It's Latin for a love of one's fate. And this goes way beyond just accepting things. Acceptance can be resentful, right? Like something you just have to put up with. Amor fati is an enthusiastic embrace. It's the belief that everything that happens in your life, every single success, every failure, every joy, every heartbreak, isn't just something to be tolerated, but something to be welcomed as a vital part of your journey. It's all fuel. The obstacle actually becomes the path. And a practice that goes hand in hand with this is memento mori. Remember, you will die. Now, I know that sounds kind of dark, but for the Stoics, it was the exact opposite. It was an incredible tool for living a better life. See, thinking about the fact that your life will end doesn't create fear, it creates urgency and deep appreciation. When you remember that your time here is limited, all the petty little annoyances and grudges and fears, they just shrink. It makes it crystal clear what actually matters. Why would you waste even one precious minute of your finite life being mad about traffic? The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who is hugely influenced by the Stoics, just captured the power of this idea perfectly. To truly want nothing to be different, to look back at your whole life with all its struggles and see it as this beautiful, necessary story, that, he said, is the formula for greatness. So, we have the theory, but how do we build the actual mental muscle to do this when things get tough? Well, the Stoics had an answer for that too. They believed in training. Think of this as a workout for your soul. The technique is called premeditatio malorum, which means the premeditation of evils. It's a kind of negative visualization. So instead of just thinking positive, you actually take time to deliberately imagine things going wrong. You visualize failing the big test, losing your job, getting sick. I know it sounds completely counterintuitive, but it's an incredibly powerful form of mental training. It's like a psychological vaccine against life's troubles.
Here's exactly how you can do it. Before a big presentation, spend 5 minutes and vividly imagine it going terribly. Your computer crashes, you forget what to say, the audience is totally bored. By mentally sparring with this failure ahead of time, you do 2 things. First, you strip the event of its power to shock you and make you afraid. You've already been there in your head. And second, it actually forces you to prepare better and to really appreciate it when things go well. The goal isn't to be a downer. The goal is to be prepared, to be resilient, and to be deeply, deeply grateful for the good things you have in your life right now. And this all brings us to the final, most empowering point. The Stoics knew that life is fragile. Everything you have can be taken from you in a heartbeat. Your job, your money, your reputation, even your health. But there is one thing, one sacred space that no one and nothing can ever touch. Marcus Aurelius called it his inner citadel. It's your mind.
It's your ability to choose how you respond, to find meaning in your struggles, to hold on to your character. That is the one freedom that can never, ever be taken away from you.
Look, becoming emotionally bulletproof doesn't mean you stop feeling things. It just means you're no longer a slave to your emotions. It means you are the master of your own mind. So, I'll leave you with a question to get you started. Think about one thing, just one, that's causing you stress right now. And then ask yourself with total honesty, is this something I can control or something I cannot? Your answer to that question is the first step to building your own bulletproof mind.